Welcome, bent riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laid Back Bike Report. All right, guys, thank you so much for taking a little time out of your busy riding schedule to join us here on the Laid Back Bike Report. Got a really cool show set up for you today. Let me tell you what's on the Laid Back Bike Report. First of all, we're going to kick it off with Honza Galla's Recumbent News. We have a little something special today. Honza can't actually be with us live, but he recorded a video with Matt Galat, Ja Yoe fame. He and AZUB are setting up a collaboration, and they're going to talk all about that. It's going to be really interesting. Matt does some amazing things with videos, so stay tuned for that one. Our featured segment is that with Caleb Klein. Caleb is a West Point grad, a vet who was hurt while he was in the Army. And he's recently, in setting himself up for his rehab, broke 10 Trike world records. So we're going to talk to Caleb. He's an amazing guy. I think you'll like that. Our old pal AD Carson is joining us again today. We had AD on many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And he is, of course, with Recycled Recumbents. But today we're going to mostly talk about his rehabbing of old recumbents and selling them in his showroom. And he also has lately been working on estate sales, including recumbents. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Returning this month is Larry Ploetz, who was with us last month, working on Nina's Mango velomobile. And Larry's quite accomplished velonaut himself. He's done lots of touring. He's going to talk about velomobile touring and some of his tips on mechanical fixes for velomobiles as well. So stay tuned for that one. We're going to take another trip to Tray's workshop down in Mississippi. Tray's this month working on an ultrasonic parts cleaning and a Catrike wheel maintenance segment. So stick around for that. And we're going to finish it up with the sports report. Larry Seidman is doing the sports today, and he's got a report on the recently held National Senior Games. I think you'll enjoy hearing from him. So, first of all, let's pop our crew up, Larry, if you would, so we can see who's with us today. There we go. First of all, from Mississippi, the aforementioned Tray Bourgoyne doing our media. Hey, Trey, how you doing today? Good. That's fine. And
silent Trey.
We heard what
I was just practicing.
Yeah.
So I said, howdy, folks, doing fine. Glad to be here.
Your mime routine was good. Also doing the directing today, as usual, out in Colorado Springs, Colorado, we have Larry Seidman. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Gary, and everybody else.
Great to have you with us. Under the almost full moon, it's Larry Varney with us today from Kentucky. Hi, Larry.
Hi, everybody.
Good to have you. And back with us again, he is in Pennsylvania again.
Yep,
it is Denny Voorhees, our sports director. Hi, Denny.
Yeah, hi. How you doing, Gary? Good to be back. We're back north again.
It is great to have you. And ensconced in the shop there, obviously, it is Doug Davis. Doug, how are you doing today?
Good. I'm here hiding in the air conditioning because it's 100 degrees outside and getting warmer.
Right. And it's great to have you with us. And finally, Nina Paley in Illinois. Nina is with us today. We're glad to have you, Nina.
Howdy. It's raining.
Which explains why you're not out velomobiling, so we appreciate that. All right, guys, so we will see you all later at one time or another. We're going to move along to talk about how our viewers can participate in this show, and it's through our live chat. So please feel free to ask your questions of our guests or panelists, make comments if you like, and don't forget to tell us where you are watching from today. Now, how can you support the Laid Back Bike Report? Well, of course, you can do so by liking us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. And that little white eye that's going to appear there is going to take you to the Laid Back Bike Report website, where you can find out lots more information, past shows, what's coming up. You can buy a hat, and you can become a Patreon like all these fine folks here did. We always appreciate that. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. All right, let's now introduce our wonderful sponsors, starting with TerraCycle, makers of exquisite recumbent parts and accessories for your bent, and Trailside Trikes, a fine recumbent trike shop on the Withlacoochee Trail in Florida and now in Knoxville, Tennessee as well, and TerraTrike Greenspeed, the best in leisure, performance, adventure, touring, electric, and portability. Wherever your adventure leads, TerraTrike will take you there. And Greenspeed, where Ian Sims designs bring performance through science and engineering. And Laid Back Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike, Ice, and Greenspeed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our mega store in Chariton. And Avenue Trikes. With the gearing you need and the comfort you want, it's time to enjoy riding again. They're in stock, ready to ship, and only $19.95. Dealer inquiries are welcome. And AZUB. This company is a 3-time winner of the Trike of the Year award and has brought several unique technological solutions to the world of recumbent bikes, including the titanium front suspension on the Tie-Fly trike. Combined with the tuned rear suspension, it provides its owner with absolute comfort throughout the ride. And Recumbent PDX. With 150 trike inventory, Recumbent PDX is the West Coast's only Catrike megastore. We have over 20 trikes in our showroom, just waiting for you to test ride through our beautiful Portland neighborhood. Call or email to schedule your test ride today. And we'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, EcoCycles, leaders in electric assist and customer support, with a line of specialized conversion kits to retrofit just about any bent model out there. Check them out at eco-ebike.com right now. All right, folks, let's jump right into it with Honza and Matt, who are going to talk a little bit about their new collaboration. Very interesting stuff. Larry, let's take a look.
Hey, guys. So Gary reached out to us and asked if we wanted to do a little video to introduce you to the project that we're working on. If you don't know me, my name's Matt. I was cycling around the world from Asia to America, and I had been working on that for quite some time, making a bunch of videos. I was riding another trike from a different company, and the pandemic came, and I was sort of stuck for a while. I reached out to Gary, and we both reached out to Gary, and we thought, oh, hey, could we be part of your next live stream?
So if you don't know me, hi, I'm Honza. I'm the news director of Laid Back Biker Report. I should have a news section today as well, but as I am here with this gentleman, I have very little time to do anything else.
Sorry.
So I start reading the questions.
Sure.
So where are you guys right now?
We're in the shop of AZUB's main facility here, where stands are set up all around, and AZUB trikes and bikes are starting to become put together.
Well, what's the backstory of changing from HP's Scorpion to AZUB Tie-Fly?
I found HP back when I first started the tour, and actually it was at Laid Back Cycles. Bent up cycles.
Bent up cycles in LA.
Dana in LA, and I tried out a bunch of trikes, and eventually I tried out an HP Scorpion 20FS, and I really liked it. I didn't know much about trikes. I mean, literally, I had tried out every trike Dana had in his showroom. And I remember I did try out an AZUB, but it was a pretty standard model without full suspension. It was the fully suspended model from HP that I really liked. And so I reached out to them, built it in Germany, and I started riding it around the world. And I had been riding a Scorpion for a very long time. And I rode through multiple countries, 15,000 miles all across Asia. But the pandemic hit. I had rode through China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia. And then in Malaysia, my tour was stunted. So I had to leave my trike in Kuala Lumpur. And then I tried to sweat out the pandemic in China. And I was waiting to return to my trike and return to the journey. You guys might know the trike's name is the Tiger Duck. And so I had been waiting to reunite with the Tiger Duck, but the pandemic, you guys know. And so I started traveling around the United States and stopping at different places and riding different trikes. And when I was in Portland at Recumbent PDX, Mel, the owner of that company, had a Tetris there that he was letting me ride just for fun. And I'm like, wow, this reminds me a lot of the sturdiness of the Scorpion. And then you reached out to me and said,
I think it was Gary. I have
Gary
heard
Solomon. Yeah.
For the first time from Gary that you might be interested in having a trike, that you need one.
Yeah.
So that was the time when I reached to you.
Yep. And I was, so the base question is, why go away from the Scorpion? Well, I've been riding the Scorpion for a very long time. I had a really nice relationship with the trike, but I was interested in trying something new, Part of traveling around the world is experiencing different places and different people. And I would kind of like to even try some different machines to do it. That's why when he reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in coming to the Czech Republic and we can build a trike together and then document the process and then go riding around Europe and then we can be like this, we can be a real team on this. I was like, sign me up.
What features do you require on the new Thai Fly?
Well, I mean, obviously for traveling, I wanted to be able to access my stuff. So I needed those handlebar bags on either side of my seat. Those were invaluable when I traveled. Most people, maybe they don't do as much. They're just riding and looking. But me, I'm videotaping and I'm flying a drone and I'm constantly, doing these sorts of things.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Hey, it's, normally that would be your job. So, we're riding around and you can enjoy the ride and Matt's flying shit and doing all sorts of stuff. But the other thing that we haven't experimented with, but I really want on the new trike are the stand-up handles, because not necessarily for getting up, but for mounting all of my gear and components. So those are really good. And then obviously a rear rack so that I can store a bunch of stuff. And that's called the King Rack, right?
Yes.
That is very appropriately named. It is like the king of racks. So yeah, as far as gearing goes, obviously the roll-off is going to be imported from the previous trike to this one. And we actually had to say sayonara to the Schlumpf drive, which is something we decided on. So you'll probably see a whole bunch of this story developing in my YouTube channel. But yeah, that's the features that I really like on the trikes will be imported into this new Thai Fly X. I'm going to be using the van. I'm building a van life van, which will be my major mode of transportation to move from one point to another. And then the trike will come off the van and I'll be doing long rides with the trike. So it used to be 20-inch tires, and having that sort of lower tire size allows you to pack more. But I want to be a bit more adventurous with this trike, and the Thai Fly X is going to allow that.
When will it be ready? So it's Saturday today.
Yes.
Sunday is the show. Monday, Tuesday, it's the time, because then Thursday we start a trip. 4, 5, 6 days long trip around Slovakian castles. So it's gonna be ready Tuesday or Wednesday latest.
Yeah. I mean, so just to kind of give you an idea of what we've been doing so far. So this is something that I really like doing. When I was younger, I always liked watching a show on TV for children. It was called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And the guy would teach you how to tie your shoes and all the, for children. But he would always go into a factory in America and show how a chair was made or show how a table was made or whatever. And I was always really interested in that. So when I moved to China, I saw all of these factories. And so and really enjoyed looking at how things were made. So when you contacted me and said, we want to follow the process of building a trike in the Czech Republic, I was like, wow, that would be great. And I had done it previously with the HP to a certain extent, but in this instance, like I never saw the frame fabrication for HP, but seeing as though you use facilities around the local area of Czechia, we've had a real interesting opportunity to dive deeper into the fabrication of the product. So this is a part of my trike, and I was able to see, these flat cut components welded onto the main bar, the hinge, what do you call this, a hinge cap? I'll call it a hinge cap. But I actually saw the guy welding it, and I actually videotaped him welding it. I'm going to have an amazing series of videos that are going to show really, really detailed views of how beautiful it is to actually fabricate one of these trikes. So we're actually really, really focusing on it. The other thing that we did, well, we painted it. Obviously, we powder coated it. And then I'm going to have the Fly X, which sports AZUB's amazing, titanium leaf spring suspension system. And these are titanium, and they're titanium because you can't paint them, right? No. I mean, like, it's such a unique...
can, but it won't last.
It won't last. So we welded these support points onto this, and we were able to see that process. And welding titanium is...
a process.
It's a process. It's a lot more to it than typical welding. And so we were able to see that. And then yesterday, we laced the tires, laced the wheels. Man, the words I use are like, it makes me sound like I'm complete amateur with bikes, but anyways. But so we took, this is the roll-off from my original ride. So we brought this from Malaysia, and then we laced the wheels. And so these are one of the three wheels, and then I'll have a dynamo on one of the wheels, and the other wheel is just going to be standard. So we did that. And so every single stage in the process has been documented.
What's next for Matt and Ja Yoe?
Well, I'm going to go back to the United States on the 23rd of June. I'm building a van life van in America. I was cycling full-time 100% around Asia, but now that I'm in America, I'm trying to merge the driving aspect of American culture with the cycling aspect of the rest of the world in a lot of ways, and then put those two things together so that I will carry a trike around on the back of my van and then ride some of the most beautiful rides in North and South America, hopefully Europe and in South Africa and Africa, and use the van as the vehicle to get me there, and then use the trike to transport me the more off-beaten paths. Now, this is like a really evolving process, and I'm super excited about it. We'll probably get on the road with the van and the trike together next spring. So up until that point, it's all about building the van and everything, because the van is going to be, if you guys have watched my videos, I put out a lot of videos, and I like to make videos, but I want a comfortable place to make those videos. And when I was riding the trike through Asia, it was always I had to find a coffee shop, or I had to find a hotel, or I had to find some place to edit, and I'm normally tired at that point in time. Well, the van is going to be my place to edit. So I'll basically be carrying the trike around, being able to put out really, really nice, clean videos, interview cool people on the road.
Have you picked out a name for the new trike? Well, not yet, but we have a favorite.
There's a few out there.
But at the moment, it could be Drsoň, which is a
Drsoň.
Drsoň. Matt still needs to learn to pronounce it perfectly.
Yeah,
it is close.
Yeah.
But it's a Czech word for a tough guy, so that's gonna be a tough trike.
So he is Krason, and I am riding Drusson.
No, you are Crosson riding on Drusson.
Well, we look very alike, so if I call you Crosson, then I'm also calling me Crosson.
Matt was excited to be able to come here. He is here in the Czech Republic for 3 weeks, so there is also some work we do together, making videos for AZUB.
Not only are we actually building the trike and focusing on cycling, but we're learning about the culture here at AZUB and the culture here in the Czech Republic. So if you're on YouTube, go to the Ja Yoe Nation and check out some journeys, and also go to the AZUB Recumbents YouTube page, and we'll be doing a bunch of collaborations.
Great.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So have a good show.
See ya.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for sharing that information with Honza and the Laidback Biker Report. Guys, if you haven't followed Matt Galat and Ja Yoe Nation, you have been really missing out. He does amazing videos. He's a very talented fella. With his cameras and drones, he brings you just whatever it is. He happens to be touring at the time, makes it very interesting. So if you haven't followed him, do it. I really recommend that. So thanks, guys. All right, one last little news item, kind of an update. I've had many people asking me about updates on Recumbent Cyclecon. There's been a little bit of an upheaval. Many of you know that that Chuck Coyne is in the process of selling this event. And so I wanted to find out from Chuck what the latest is. And so I messaged him yesterday, and he responded with this. Negotiations for the sale of the Recumbent Cyclecon are nearly complete. We are still in the confidential non-disclosure stage, and it's too early to go public with who the new management will be. I will be involved in all ways, as usual, with producing the show in 2022. The new management will bring resources and expertise that will help the show and the industry continue to grow and prosper. So a positive note from Chuck. We will keep you guys apprised as soon as we know who the hands that have been changed to are, and we'll bring that to you as soon as we can find that out. So with that, let's move on to the main segment of the show. I'm going to bring you an incredible gentleman, a veteran who is working hard to rehab the injuries that he received while in the Army. In the process, he recently found himself winning 10 world records on his trike. So I think you're going to really enjoy meeting Caleb Cline. Larry? All right, guys, today we are here with Caleb Cline, who has shown us an inspirational way to ride a trike. Caleb has had a few obstacles in his life to deal with, and we're going to talk about some of those. Caleb, welcome to the Laid Back Bike Report.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
All right. So why don't we start out talking about the beginning of all this, which I think revolves around your service to this country. Can you tell us a little bit about getting involved with your service?
Absolutely. So I graduated from West Point in 2014, and I commissioned into the infantry, and the whirlwind had just begun. At that point, I was active duty for 5 years, 3 months, and 20 days, and was medically discharged September of 2019 due to back and neck injuries that I had sustained actually a couple years earlier. But every officer, and especially every infantryman, knows that you basically avoid seeing the doctor at all costs until it unfortunately is your last option. So that is what eventually led to my discharge due to a striker accident that I had in February of 2016.
Yeah, can you describe a little bit about the nature of this injury for us?
Absolutely. So just some history. A striker is basically an 8-wheeled tank with either a 50 cal machine gun on the top. Oh, hi, striker. Or a grenade launcher. The ones that I used, we preferred the 50 cals because we could basically, it's one of the simplest, most accurate and reliable weapon systems that was made over 100 years ago and has had almost no modifications. I was stationed in El Paso, Texas at the time, which is about a stone's throw away from Juarez, Mexico. And we did most of our training actually in New Mexico, just by where the training area was connected to the base. And so one day we were out prepping we were doing a platoon live fire, which was a validation thing to prepare us to go to Afghanistan. And we were going up and over some very large hills and inexperienced drivers and just unpredictable terrain. Just imagine a $4 million vehicle going nose first into the ground repeatedly, and then you're standing out of the sunroof and enjoying and absorbing all of that trauma into your spine. So nobody was wearing seat belts, and that's just kind of the MO. That was the name of the game. And we all were young, dumb, and thought we were heroes. And, no harm would ever come to us. So I had some immediate pain, but that didn't matter. At least at the time, we had a mission to accomplish. So at that point, we went and finished the mission, and we were out on the range for a couple more days. And that, and, sleeping on the ground, and then just constantly loading your spine with 100-pound rucksacks and doing other things at a certain point, it became a quality of life issue. And my wife told me when I could no longer bathe my first daughter, change diapers, etc., she said, either you go to the doctor or I will take you. But either way, you're going to go. So I said, okay.
And you went to the doctor, and they took some x-rays. I know we have a picture of that. Your back is a mess, man. So it's it's something that it's amazing looking at it that you could even function at all. So that was the physical injuries. You then had to deal with recovery from that, and there were psychological aspects to this as well. Briefly, if you would, just tell us about how that has been being discharged and then coming back to civilian life. How did you deal with that?
It's pretty rough. So I would say I was brainwashed in a sense, and that's not always a bad thing, but from age 9 when 9/11 happened until I left the service, that was all that I ever wanted to do. So that, when you're laser focused and fully committed to doing one thing, and then that one thing kind of gets ripped out from under you, it's a bit of a culture shock, to say the least. So for almost 2 years, I didn't shave. I think you have a couple pictures in there. I mean, my beard was probably down here. I was borderline what I would call a homeless hipster. If I had put product in it and tamed it a little bit, it looked a little more presentable, but it got to the point where it just needed to go.
What's the plan for the recovery for you? What did you think about in terms of how you're going to deal with this?
I really had no idea. I mean, I'm still in and out of different psychiatrists, psychologists' offices. Got the medication pretty dialed in, so that's a plus. And sleeping has gotten better once that has kind of balanced out, and normal. Well, I wouldn't say normal. Nothing that I do is normal, but I would say consistent physical activity, maintaining just kind of a regular routine. So has kind of helped out with that. I didn't get my first trike until July 2020. So that's about the only good thing that came out of COVID for me. And that only happened because the folks that I was riding with at the VA in Las Vegas, we could no longer meet in groups and do group things because, everybody was scared of coronavirus. So they said, well, we will purchase you a Catrike 700. And so that's how it all started. And it didn't stay stock for long. So
right, of course, because you had some plans for that. As part of your recovery plan, you got a recovery dog as well.
Yes, I do. Striker, come here.
Yeah, let's take a look at Striker.
Come here, buddy. Here's my golden doodle. He's very fluffy. Lay down. He was trying to play with the kids. I got him at 8 weeks when I was in Georgia, and I've had him ever since. We've pretty much gone everywhere together. Every race that I've done, he's been in the car with me, flies with me. Wherever I'm at, he's generally at. I said, if a striker broke me, a striker will fix me. And that's where his namesake came from. And then the rest is history. So,
okay, let's talk about the phrase uniquely able. This keeps popping up on all of some of your videos, and I see in some of the posters I see. What does it mean to Caleb Cline? What does uniquely abled mean?
Well, I think it's a misnomer in the fact that I don't think anything in this world at this point is normal. And I think COVID has kind of showed us that. So I would venture to say that everybody in their own way is uniquely abled. They just need to figure out what that is. And that's kind of what my message is, especially from the outside looking in. I look completely normal. So, I've had people question that I'm disabled. What's wrong with you? You look completely fine. You don't even need a dog, etc. Why are you riding a trike? I mean, the list goes on and on. So for me, it's just realizing that this is my unique circumstance. And again, everyone has their own kind of unique circumstances, but in that you are able to accomplish really whatever you put your mind to, because you have that circumstance, I believe, for a reason. And so, kind of to borrow the phrase, if God brought you to it, he'll bring you through it type thing. You probably are put yourself, or you are in a certain situation to either help yourself learn something, but then also to turn and help others through that same scenario. And so, I did enough pouting, and there's still days where I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to do different things. But my coach and my sponsors at this point aren't too happy when I don't get up and train.
How did you first discover trikes, and how did they begin to play a part in what you wanted to do for your recovery?
So again, I was riding with recreational therapy at the VA, and they have a fleet of Catrikes here in Las Vegas. And so that's what I was used to. I didn't really know much else. I had done a Wounded Warrior Project soldier ride in 2019, and we rode ice trikes there, but it definitely wasn't the VTX that I now ride today. And so I had seen a couple options, but I didn't really know what I didn't know. And, when somebody says free, I will take it. So they offer me a Catrike 700, and I probably have put 10,000 plus miles or more on it. And now I've actually let another veteran borrow it and kind of start his journey of recumbent triking, because he has bad back and is unable to ride a regular upright bike for a long time. And I said, hey, no problem. I now have more trikes than I can ride on a daily basis, and it's a great problem to have because I can bless somebody else. So
good. Well, I'm interested in the specifics of your trike. So you started out with a Catrike 700, and you mentioned you had a VTX, which sounds like what you're riding now, I believe. Tell us what you have and the progression and what you thought about each of them.
So I think they all serve a great purpose. My Catrike I would call is my F-150. I mean, I've pulled the kids. I've broken burly trailers by putting kids in boulders and basically you can only put so much weight in those things, trying to find different ways to train, because I am all about doing things, kind of unconventionally. I love my Catrike. It's reliable. I call her Old Faithful. It's the first one that I've had. The only issues that I've had with it is I've broken the chain twice in 2 separate races. And the second race, I had my spare chain pre-cut ready to go, and that was at Lotoja. And so thankfully the race support, one gentleman happens to ride a 2-wheel recumbent, was I don't know if they were watching me or happened to be behind me or whatever the case may be, but I was about 7 miles from the finish. I power shifted going up a hill, which I thought I had learned the lesson the first time, but clearly not. And chain snapped, and we just got to work, swapped it out, got back on the road, took probably about 20 minutes, and then went from there. So I love it just because things damn near impossible to break. And why I say that is because I then went from that to Baketta carbon trike. Obviously massive weight difference, handling difference, even back angle. So the Baketta I used for raw in 2021. And then I borrowed a close friend of mine, Mark Weedhace. He has one as well. So I had 2 of those on the course. Only issues until I broke the frame basically in half. And I don't really know how that happened, or if it was more of a manufacturer defect, but I have gotten that since replaced. So the only real issues I had there was tires and running tubeless in the front. Sometimes it was harder to keep a good seal. In doing that, I now am back running tubeless on my VTX all the way around. So I still have my Baketta, and it's now set up as my climbing trike. And I did that because it's got a higher back angle, so I can change a little bit of basically kind of my leg position. And because the feet are the lowest in terms of height or boom height on the Baketta, I wanted that to be my climbing trike. And people, well, when no one else has done this, and they said, why do you need 2 trikes, or why do you need this? And I said, well, when I was riding an upright bike, I would have had a roadie and a TT. So why is this any different?
Of course, different tools for different jobs. It only makes sense.
Exactly. So, but for somebody who's never climbed a 10-mile climb on a trike, you don't realize that, you can only keep your feet above your heart so long and then expect to have, no foot pain. So now I'm on the VTX. I call that my time trial trike because it's so streamlined. It's got the most aggressive back angle in terms of I'm laying basically as flat as possible. And I mean, I basically feel like I can keep up with the regular, I'll show up to a regular, upright group ride and I get some funny looks, but I can usually hang for a pretty long time unless we're doing a ton of climbing. With the setup that I have right now, it's just not really built for climbing because I've got a longer crank and I have the seat basically as far back as it can go, so I can be as aerodynamic as possible. So, I mean, I've got a couple descent KOMs because I'm breaking, 55, 60 miles an hour coming down some serious mountains, and I enjoy it. I think it handles the best because the front wheels are just a little bit wider. So as the gentleman from ICE told me, he said, I promise you, you will not flip or roll this. And I've tried, and I have not, but I surely have tried.
Could you briefly go through what your attempts were as far as ultra racing and how ultra trike racing and how that has helped you? Go ahead.
Absolutely. So first race was 6 weeks after I got my Catrike. I got the bug pretty quick and realized, I said, well, I want to ride across the country. Didn't know that was obviously now what we know is Race Across America. And so after a couple of minutes on Google, realized, I need to qualify for this. Yeah, that would probably make sense. It is 3,000 miles. So I signed up for Silver State 508, having only ridden 50 miles to that point. And this was back when Robert Panzero was the owner. He said, sure, you seem to have some guts. We'll see what happens. If I wouldn't have broken my chain, and I did get it repaired about 180-ish miles in. And I mean, I showed up with one trike, hopes and dreams, and I had no idea what I was doing. So it repaired. I got another, say 120, 130 miles. before my back wheel locked up. Now I realize it was just a shifting error because my chain was short. But at the time, I thought that the trike was just not rolling anymore. And so about 300 and change, we called it. I probably would have finished that race if I would have known that. But I'm glad I didn't, because that is what allowed me to get the support that I needed in terms of Robert connected me with his athlete, Matt Hoffman, who's my coach. That's kind of who I got in my corner because I didn't finish. If I would have finished, I would have thought I knew what I was doing, and then I would have showed up somewhere else and failed and wouldn't have been successful. So then I went to NCOM 375, probably maybe a month or two after Silver State. And I didn't finish that one because same trike. But I did bring a backup. Obviously I didn't need it because this time my crew started falling asleep and almost ran me over. And at that point, okay, we learned that lesson. So I called that race at about 225 of 375 miles. After that, I came home and I decided, well, I need to take basically all the uncontrollable variables out of this and really test myself. So I did indoor 24-hour worlds, which was miserable, but we had no issues. I was like, all right, well, everything's always been Ram. I got to get to Ram. Well, I was 14 miles away. So I was like, my coach said, Caleb, no offense to you or anybody in the cycling community, but they're not going to know the difference if you sign up for Ram or Raw. Honestly, nobody cares. So go try Raw first. Okay. So last summer, I towed the line in my Baqueta for Raw, and we're setting heat records, and I sit 4 inches off the ground. So that's not great. I ended up halfway through in Prescott in the hospital, per my crew's guidance, as they literally picked me up off the trike, put me in the car, drove me to the hospital, and all I wanted to do was ride my bike. So it has never really been a commitment issue. It was more in this time of a electrolyte nutrition problem, which we've now solved that. And so I'm glad that piece is fixed. But it's still, at 135 degrees, which was the highest ambient temperature we had recorded. It's 180 degrees, give or take, coming off the blacktop right into your skin. And for us, we've got the majority of your body sitting this way. That's pretty miserable. So, upright riders were like, man, my feet hurt. Or my feet are hot. And I'm like, that's really cute. Like, my whole body is roasting. But
yeah,
okay.
You're down there as low as their feet, and it's all of you. So
exactly.
That's when I think first took notice of you, and we first started communicating when you were doing Raw. And, that was just so impressive to me, even though you didn't get it completely done. What you went through proved to me that you certainly were going to go a long way the next time you got to something. And I think that something turned out to be what took place just a couple of months ago, and it was your attempt at some world records. So I'd like to, if we could, wrap up our conversation
Sure.
with the story.
So, day of, everything was going well. Riding the ice. Originally, my goal was 500 miles, and I didn't realize kind of how lofty that was until I got rolling. I was going to set a new 100-miler record, or at least 100-mile PR for myself at about probably 440. So I was moving pretty good. And then I have a right tire explosion, and then my left wheel fell off. And at that point, I was like, well, this really wasn't a part of the plan, but I also saw the 500 miles kind of going away. And I was like, all right, well, let's regroup. So we got on my Baqueta, and somehow the front wheels were misaligned. And I don't know where or how that happened, but long and short, I was, for about 2 hours, I was burning a brand new set of front Schwalbes every 7 miles. So we quickly realized there was kind of an alignment issue, and the fact that I went from over 20 miles an hour average to struggling to go 10 miles an hour. And so we finally got the bolts, fixed the ice, got the front wheel back on. Everything was moving as good as it could. Gave me a second wind, and then I just was pedaling for a while. I rode until 9. So I started at 9 a.m. I rode till 9 p.m. Got off, got a chiropractic adjustment, changed my cycling kit, and did some KT tape, and got back on the road. I rode for another 6 hours. And I briefly remember my coach saying, Caleb, if you were tired and on an upright, you would have fallen over. You need to let us know, like, if you're really struggling so that we can, if you need to take a rest. Well, as soon as I came around the corner to the start finish line, I basically crashed into the curb and fell asleep right on the trike. And they picked me up and laid me on the ground. And I took what I call a homeless veteran nap for 30 minutes. Then they woke me back up and said, all right, are you ready to go? And I said, I thought I was riding the whole time. So not what I wanted to hear, but I kept going. I rode for another 3 or so hours. And usually the sun kind of gets me moving again. In this case, it didn't. And so they realized, okay, we've tried caffeine, we've tried sun, we've tried every kind of trick that we know. Let's get him, my coach said, get him a shower, change kit one more time, let him pump his legs and rest for 30 minutes. And so I did all those things probably in about a 45-minute window, came back, and then basically rode for about another hour and a half to 2 hours and was able to finish up with 10 world records.
You have set 10 world records for 100 kilometer, 200 kilometer, 500 kilometer, 100 mile, 200 mile, 6 hours, 12 hours, and 24 hours for recumbent trikes on a road course. Your final mileage was 322.913 miles and 519.677 kilometers. You rode for 24 hours, 35.4 seconds. Congratulations.
That's Mark Weedhays. So that's the previous record holder.
Right.
And we've been close friends this whole time. So it was cool again to have that passed on from the previous guy. There was just an honor in it that, we're not out, cutthroat trying to hit each other's knees at the Olympics, or, this is a gentleman's sport at the end of the day. And it was nice to, play it that way. So.
Caleb, the ultracycling and the success now that you've recently had, certainly your efforts over these last couple of years, tell me how you feel it has aided you in your recovery.
To be quite honest, I wouldn't be alive without it. So in a world full of uncontrollables, this gives me something that I can control. And in that, I'm quite honest about I would not be alive without ultracycling today. It's given me an outlet. It's giving me something that I can look forward to each day, whether I'm riding indoors, outdoors, really look forward to really kind of wherever this journey takes me. I'm launching a nonprofit called the Rusty Dogs of War, and it's to help other disabled veterans get out and do endurance racing, whether that be cycling, swimming, running, or, a mix of all three, or whatever the case may be. So I just want to help other people realize that they can do whatever they decide they want to do. And then in that, continuing to grow awareness. Ultimately, I'd love for UCI to recognize us. That way the Paralympic Committee can recognize us. And, as long as we have a classification, we can race with other Paralympic athletes. And that's kind of my ultimate overarching goal. So
let's finish up with REM. Is that still on the horizon for you as an ultimate type of goal? What is your final goal here as far as ultra racing?
Absolutely. That's, I would say, the golden ticket. And being a West Point grad, I will carry a Go Army Beat Navy flag from Oceanside all the way to Annapolis. And once we finish, I will go plant that bad boy at the Naval Academy. I've always been very upfront about that. I can't promise I'll get it done in 12 days. I don't even know if it'll be done in 14, but I won't stop until I finish what I love to do it in the record amount of time. Absolutely. But we're doing things that nobody's ever done before. So we don't know what it's going to take because no one's ever done it. So we're just blazing trails and trying to figure it out at the same time. So.
All right. Caleb, thank you so much for spending time with the Laid Back Bike Report. You have shown us, I think, that this injury and then your road to recovery, it's not a straight line. It's not something that you just figured out a plan and then suddenly you reach a goal. There's ups and downs. I know that's the way it is for you and for everyone else, but you just don't give up. You keep going at it, and it's so inspirational. I really appreciate what you do and how you help others achieve their goals as well. So, Caleb Klein, thank you so much for being on the Laid Back Bike Report.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, Caleb, thanks again. A remarkable young man. We wish you the best in the future for your recovery and future exploits on the trike. We'll be keeping our eyes on you. So, all right, let's move along to our next segment with AD Carson from Recycled Recumbents. I think you guys will enjoy this piece. Larry, let's have a look at AD. Guys, we are here with AD Carson. AD, how are you today?
Fine. Excuse me while I move the cat.
All right, we can try that again. Guys, we are here with AD Carson of Recycled Recumbents. Hello, AD.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
I am doing well. We're so excited to have you with us. A little update. You were with us about 6 years ago on a very early Laid Back Bike Report. So we're going to do a little updating of Recycled Recumbents and then going to talk about a few other aspects of what you are into these days. So let's get started with that. First of all, for those of our viewing audience who have not seen that old Laid Back Bike Report, what is Recycled Recumbents?
Recycled Recumbent is a couple of things. Number one, it's me in my garage, and it's my favorite hobby. Number two, it's a site that was built, I'm going to say, about 17 years ago now. Excuse the cat. The whole point of it at that time was to present a method for home builders to build a bike of their own using two old 10-speed type bikes. Very much, I hadn't read it at the time, but very much modeled after Garner Martin's home-built recipe with some slight changes of my own. But essentially, it was a cheerleader site, so I would be encouraging other people to do what I was doing, which was building bikes at home. I started building them for other people. They seemed to like it, so I built more. It seemed to became my obsessive hobby. And I started building these and selling them to people, which is wonderful. We developed an update on the plan, which was called the Mach 2, which is now the favorite bicycle. This is a sample of it and almost the latest sample of it. And eventually the Mach 3 as well. Those are elaborations on the original plan. They're all on the website as potential projects for a home builder. They're also available for sale because people like what I build.
And crucially, AD, maybe we really need to emphasize the fact: where do these frames come from?
They come from junk bikes. Now, it's more than just the old 10 speeds. Almost any adult bicycle, and there are exceptions, can be used as a part of this frame. But it's a welding and restructuring, obviously, of those old frames into this long two-wheel-based frame format.
And so this wonderful concept then that you have of building this bike from the remains of older bikes, hence the recycled part of Recycled Recumbents.
Absolutely. One of the two meanings for recycled, but yes. And the site was meant to encourage people to make it on their own. I think it's been very successful.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what you do as far as seats go?
Okay, I have to give all credit to the original designer of this seat. His name is Barnett Williams. He put something like this on a website in around 1998, 2000. It's all done in metrics and it's all done in Canada, and he built it out of conduit on using an old wheel rim to bend things around. I've adapted his plan. It's been shifted dimensionally a little here and there, and I make it now just like this. And of course, I custom make it for people who don't want as much lumbar support or want a wider seat or a narrower one. But I make it just like this. it's covered in a vinyl coated mesh called Pfeiffer-Tex, which I hand stitch on. There are other ways to do it. It's all laid out on the website for you to do yourself. And of course, I do them like this. And I have my lovely quality assistant here checking them for comfort. I do them for my bikes, and they've also gone on to any number of other bikes. One of the chief ones is the Tour Easy bikes, or any of the Easy Racer bikes, where I developed and successfully implemented this particular bracket. The holes on the bottom of it are meant to marry to the two bracket holes on the base of the Tour Easy frame and give you some adjustability. The cup on the end of the brace is where my seat fits in and attaches with hose clamps. This has gone right there, probably, I don't know, 60 or 70 of those seats on Tour Easy style bikes right now. It's also been adapted to any number of other bikes, and then I've declined a few as well where it doesn't really work that well.
All right, AD. Let's talk about a subject that we have talked about before, and I know is near and dear to your heart, and that is what the heck has happened to two-wheeled recumbents.
If you talk to any retailer, or you're going to hear that he's not selling bikes, he's selling trikes. And these days, he seems to be selling motorized trikes, whether he wants to or not, because that's what his customers want. You can't deny what the customers want. That seems to be the state of the market. Where it's going to go, I don't know. Am I a Luddite, or are the two-wheeled bikes coming back? They have a place. I stay as busy as I want to, but I'm blessed that I don't make a living building these bikes.
Let's talk right now about your recumbent showroom that you have. So you create these recycled recumbents, but you also do take in and refurbish some bikes. Tell us about the Recycled Recumbent showroom.
Sure. They call it bike flipping, I suppose. You know, there are a number of people, and I know some who take in upright bikes of all sorts, refurbish them, make them better, and flip them, i.e. sell them to new buyers. Recycled Recumbents was young in 2006, and I had an opportunity, and a really exciting opportunity for the first time ever, to own a manufactured recumbent bike. Somebody was selling a Tour Easy, a large size one. I blush to say for $500. And I took some money out of savings and I bought it. And there are two reasons I bought it. One, it's a lovely bike and it was underpriced. And two, I'd been saying for about 5 years at that point that my bike, the Mach 2, was the equivalent of the Tour Easy. And I had no personal proof of that. It was exciting to get to ride Garner Martin's bike and see how it compared to my bike. But, and it did compare well, I will say myself, but I may have a prejudice point of view, I don't know. I sold that bike for a respectable amount of money, not 2 months later. And from that, the whole idea, it's not a new idea, but of buying used recumbents, fixing them up, and selling them became an interesting sideline for recycled recumbents. I buy them largely because I want to know about them, like I did about that Tour Easy. I buy bikes that are interesting to me, that I'd like to ride for 50 miles. You can't learn enough about any recumbent in a parking lot or in a showroom. You really need to sit on it and ride it, fit it to yourself. So I do that, and then I find buyers for them. That's what the showroom is about. It's a place for my bikes. I build a number of bikes on commission for specific buyers, and that's great fun. But I also, when I don't have commissions, I'll build my bike, and those bikes go into the showroom, just over the listings for the used recumbents that come and go from the shop.
And this is a virtual showroom. You were kind of ahead of your time on this virtual thing, weren't you? Tell us about that.
I don't know if I was or not. It certainly isn't a showroom. It's those bikes are all crammed into my 2-car garage. We don't park in my garage. And the showroom is a semi-infamous clapboard wall on the side of my house on the driveway where all these bikes could get a picture taken of them. I suppose if you looked at bikes from 2005 and from 2022, you'd see how that paint has aged over the years. But the
so
showroom,
you take these pictures and then you upload them to the website in the virtual showroom. Yes.
Yeah, I try to keep the website up to date. These are the bikes that are with us right now. And at the top of the showroom page, there's usually a date stamp that I just type in. This is the date to which everything's current. So far, unless I've been gone for 3 months or whatever, the showroom stays very current.
Talk to us a little bit about why it's an advantage to someone looking for a recumbent to buy one of these used recumbents versus buying new. What are the advantages?
So your opportunity there is to get a better bike for less money. And then now, as we started talking about the state of the industry, a lot of these really good bikes are no longer made. You can't buy a new Turizi anymore. There are a couple of places where you can buy a bike like that, but you can't buy one of those new. You have to shop the used market. You can't buy the Halazak anymore, for example, new. They aren't made. Almost every bike in the showroom, there may be an exception, I'm thinking of it, is not currently under manufacture, every used bike. So there are opportunities there to get bikes that you might not otherwise have in a showroom.
Very nice. All right, let's go to the showroom, shall we? And if you wouldn't mind, can you give us an idea about each of these bikes? What do we have here?
You're asking me to advertise now, and who wouldn't do that?
Go for it.
This is a Bichetta Agio. I just got it a month ago. I've actually taken this 50 miles on roads. Very sweet little long wheelbase recumbent bike with a good seat on it. This one is in very good shape. I didn't have to do much to it at all except dust it off.
Okay.
This is that Halazak. I've been told this is actually a Halazak Leprechaun. The Leprechaun is distinct because it has a 16-inch front wheel instead of a 20. The bike also has a shock fork on it. This was a project for me. The man who sold it to me sold me the seat, the frame, the steering mechanism, and the fork, and nothing else. He had taken it to the point where he had it stripped. It is actually now clear coated and shows a clear coat over bare steel. And I had to scratch my head for a while to find all the right components to make it work. It's got a lovely wheel, a rear wheel on it, a new front wheel on it, and it's the Halazak underseat steering system is one of the best I've found for short wheelbase. That is a Rocket. One of Ranz's best short wheelbase bikes, a dual 20-inch wheel bike. And this one's in very good shape. It's got a good seat on it, and a pivoting handlebar mast for the handlebar. So it's well equipped. This is one of my favorite bikes. This is the Easy One by Sun Bicycles, but this is the aluminum frame version of it. I say online and there are several places, this is the best kept secret of the recumbent world. This bike rides almost comparably to the Turizi. It's the poor man's Turizi. It's lightweight. This thing weighs maybe 35 pounds, so it's comparable in weight, and it's a very comfortable ride. It's also one of the most adaptable bikes out there in terms of range of size, range of people it can fit, and it has a very low step over. I think it's the best beginner's bike out there. People got tired of the Rocket with a 20-inch wheel on the back, so they reconfigured it to have a 26-inch wheel on the back, and that is the V-Rex, a lovely bike. And that's a Turizi. That happens to be a medium-sized frame. When I bought it, sight unseen, they told me it was a small frame. It's not. It's a medium. There was a fellow who wanted to buy it, but he has a 5-foot-tall sister he was buying it for, so the medium frame was too tall for her. So it's on the market. This one also has my seat on it with that adapter. The owner of this bike I think he and his wife moved on to Trikes. This was her bike. And he offered to sell them to me, and I sell his bike and hers to me. His is gone now, but both of them had my seat on it that they'd enjoyed the adaptation to. So this is an adapted Toureasy. The Tie Rush just left. It's no longer for sale. Came to me from a fellow who'd moved on to Trikes. There we go. There's that marketplace again. He's up near Denver, and well, if I didn't already have a Tie Rush of my own, I'd have kept this bike. But this one's moved on. It's moved on rather exotically. It's going to Singapore. This is the Barcroft Dakota. I bought this bike in Tucson. We were there for 3 months this winter, and in March it became my riding bike. I've adapted it, put a pivoting mast on it, and that's a Valet handlebar on it. If I didn't already have a P38 in my own garage, this is probably the bike I'd keep. There are also a couple of my Mach 2s in the showroom. They look just like this bike on the header from the website. And then I have one Mach 3. Looks like this. That one, the Mach 3 is the dual 26-inch wheel version. Projects. There are two projects right now, and one is that yellow bike, which has that internal hub on it, and the other is this. This happens to be for the fellow who wanted a small Toureasy but can't find one. Okay, so we've made a frame for him. It's been custom painted. It has an adapter that will accept a Rans style seat with the V-clamp brackets on it. So this is the kit that my friend Andrew has ordered. He's going to finish it. He's going to put his own wheels and his own drivetrain and brakes and so forth on it. But he ordered this kit in place of a small Toureasy. So this is a very small frame for me, custom made for his sister. This is another project I just finished, also custom made for a fellow down in Houston. His special request for a Mach 2, number one, he's a very large fellow, so it had to be a strong bike with a wide seat on it. Number two, he was particularly in love with the Shimano Alpine 8 rear hub, which is a new one for me. I hadn't installed one of those before. So we had a wheel built for him with that hub in it, and I've done the mechanics work to install it, watching the YouTube videos on how to do it and buying all the parts. Turns out to be a very nice bike. I hope I have the gear range for him on.
AD, you've gotten into something now recently that concerns all of us at some point. We have our stables of recumbent bikes that we love, and many of our recumbent brethren are aging as we are. And inevitably, of course, we're going to have to meet our end, and our families may have to deal with what's left over in the garage. So, AD, tell us about your experience helping families dispose of recumbents as part of their estates.
Well, seeking out old recumbents to buy, you encounter estates. Someone's son has his dad's bikes and doesn't know what to do with them. You know, a wife has a garage full of mysterious stuff, what you will, and I bump into these things all the time. I've bumped into it recently. It seems like more and more, sometimes because somehow they get a hold of my name and number, other times because these people are friends of mine. I had two bikes from an estate in Florida recently. Well, one of the bikes he had to deal with was actually one of mine, which is how he got my name. It was the Mach 3 you've already seen a picture of today. So that's come back to me and is now in the showroom. The other bike he had was a Lightfoot Ranger, which is a delightful dual 26-wheel bike. But the son's dilemma was that he asked me for evaluation on them and how he could sell them. I gave him all the advice he liked. And I think he tried it for a couple of weeks and realized how difficult it is to find a market for these. He came back to me and we came to an agreement where I would buy the two bikes and he would take them to a local shop they're down in Florida and have them packed and shipped up here. which is great. That's fine. They've come to my showroom. The Ranger's already been sold, and it's on the way somewhere else. I got a chance to revisit the Mach 3, which is fun, and take it out for a ride because I haven't had one in the shop for I don't know, 3 or 4 years at this point. So that was fun for me. That's just one estate. There have been others over the years that's typical of it with a child or spouse that doesn't know what to do with a bike. I had another much more difficult case for a friend of mine who died in a bike road accident just over a year ago, John Abbey. And his family, who are friends of mine, John left a shop that's bigger than mine. He had 7 or 8 very nice 2-wheel recumbents. He had 3 velomobiles. John was a huge velomobile rider and advocate. This is one of them. The bikes went to a local shop for sale on commission, which is fine. The velos, well, one was totaled in the accident. The other, the family had and didn't know how to market, and the bike shop didn't want to market it. The third was this, which is a Blue Velo Quest. The problem was John had this thing in the middle of his shop. It was taken apart. It's still, you can see it doesn't have any wheels on it in this picture. It's sitting up on the bench. The top was not on it originally. He was basically sculpting a new top for it. And the point is, it was a disassembled project in the middle of his cluttered shop. Nobody knew what to do with it. Nobody knew how to handle it or to find a home for it. John died last April. This was still sitting there in January when I got to Tucson, which is where he lives. So I helped them with that. It wasn't so much that we wanted to reassemble it and find a buyer for it, as they wanted to find a place where it might be resurrected and respected and have new life on the road with someone else, because it really isn't a marketable bike. It's a project. It's a huge project. In fact, it's a project that was beyond me, and certainly not one I could carry home in our little Honda Fit when we left Tucson at the end of March. So I helped them find a home for it. There's a lovely velomobile, they might call him a velomobile whisperer up here in Wisconsin. He came out to Tucson, picked this thing up as a gift from the family, and I believe he's currently in the process of restoring it and making it wonderful. And it solved the family's problem, because this rented property had to be let loose. A third estate that's been on my mind is a fellow I met last October. Doug called me up, and he said, I have a couple of your seats. I bought them 2 years ago. I've never put them on anything, but I'd like to sell them back to you. I said, oh, all right. Why? And he hit me with this. He said, well, my doctors told me to get my affairs in order. What do you say to that? I don't know Doug very well at that point, but that's horrible news for anyone. And I went out and I talked to him, and it turns out he has a shop as extended, say, as John Abbey's was in Tucson. He's got a basement just chock full of projects. He had a titanium Velocity Squared. He had an aluminum one he was setting up. He had a cruise bike. He had 100 things in there, and then shelves and shelves of parts. The basement was cluttered. It turns out he really wanted someone to talk to bikes about. I think he was kind of lonely. So we had a lovely afternoon, and I went home with a couple of his projects. And I didn't talk to him. His wife called me in March and said, well, Doug's in a home now. He's under nursing care, and he's not real coherent, but I'm left with the job of, the house has been sold and I have to clear it in 2 weeks. Can you help? I said, well, yeah. I spent good money on about 3 or 4 Doug's projects in October, which is fine. And he said to me, well, what if the doctor's wrong and I get better? I'll be really pissed off. And I said, no, Doug, if the doctor's wrong, I'll chase these bikes down for you. We'll find them and get them back. Anyway, time for champagne, not for being pissed off. It didn't happen that way. His wife called me, and I went over there, and she had someone who had cleaned out all of his road bike stuff, which is great, and most of his tools, which is also great. And we filled my van with stuff just to get it out of the basement for her. Because there's nothing, she had no one else to turn to. And that kind of thing concerns me. I want to go through some of his projects here. You'll look and you'll see. This is a Bachetta frame that he had sitting there just like this. Now let's flip through some. This is there's a carbon basso under this that didn't have a seat. It had a seat frame, so I made an attempt in resurrecting it to stitch a new cover for that Bachetta seat. It was only partially successful because the Velcro won't stick to that vinyl mesh. Anyway, if you want a vinyl mesh seat, there's the basso. I did actually promote a seat for it. The problem with Bachetta right now is they can't sell you a new seat. They don't have any made. This is the cruise bike that Doug had. Also a major project because this is all that was there of it. Some lovely wheels, a crank set, and I think there's a chain on it, but that's it. These are Doug's seats. He had a stack of these. I call them kidney seats because I don't like them very much myself. But these needed homes. These all came in my van. I put them up on Bent Rider and said, take them, please, for the cost of postage and a little bit to box them up. And they've all found homes. That is the whole point, Doug. And this is an HP street machine frame, except it doesn't have the rear moving bottom bracket on it, or the rear moving triangle on it, or anything else. So this is a project with real challenges too. Let's see, is there anything else here? I don't remember. Yep, he had a Lightning Phantom, just like this. And he had an old Tailwind, and his wife said, just take it, just take it. It didn't need much except new tires. No one had ridden it in a while. The bottom line is from Doug's was I helped his wife take a bunch of stuff out of the basement. It's clear except for what you'd call scrap steel right now. My van was full when I left their home. And the task for me was to just find homes for all that stuff. About half of it, parts and whatnot, and went to a local charity bike shop, which they can use anything. And then the tailwinds in my showroom. All of those projects you saw, I asked my friends on. I don't need new projects. I don't need that many. So I asked people on Bent Rider who would like to do this, that, and the other, and hopefully we salted those away for not much more than the price of packing and shipping them to people.
Good.
And that was a way to help her deal with that estate.
Right. All right. So that's going to bring us to maybe some solutions or preventions that family can do. Let me show this picture of Ron's Trike. Tell us about Ron's story.
All right, Ron is a well-known Milwaukee recumbent advocate and rider. He's been around longer than me, and has been an enthusiast. He's been with the HPV Association and so forth. He rode a Tour Easy for years and years. He's deteriorated. He's older, and about 2 years ago, he was coming to the realization he couldn't ride anymore. He's very stooped, bent over. His posture is horrible, and these are the things you face when you age. He had a shop full of tools. He had at that time 4 recumbent trikes, all of which had electric assist on them that he and his wife were using. And Ron made a very deliberate choice. He said, I need to move these things to people who will love them. And so what he said was, he put all 4 out there with very clear advertising. These are the bikes. And he put this trike, this is an e-spike. It's probably, at retail, it's probably a $2,500 trike. I don't remember exactly. And this one's a few years old, but he wanted to sell it for $500. And all 4 of his trikes were in that kind of bargain range, but Ron was very deliberate. He told me he didn't want me to buy them all because I'd just sit there and resell them and upsell them, which is fine. I respected that. I did have a friend who was going to come and visit last fall, and she might have gone off with a trike. So I said, Ron, sell me this one, just one of the four, and I'll show it to my friend. She might really like this. She was new to recumbents at that point. So he sold me this one, and it stayed around all winter. My friend didn't buy it, but so I had it, and I found a new home for it in Chicago last month at a little more than the $500 I paid for it, but not a lot. I try not to overcharge for things. I try to think of what I do as finding good homes for bikes.
And this is what Ron was really after too, right? He emotionally was attached to his bikes, and since he could no longer ride them, it was important to him to find a way to find good homes for these. Is that the point, I think?
I think that's the point to make, yeah. And I hope I'm coherent enough when the time I can't ride comes to do that with my bikes, and I hope you are as well.
Exactly. And that's what we're really trying to say here, AD, I think. So great. Let's finish up with where you're going now and what's the latest with you. You have been a long time tourer and a noted one as well. And we probably don't have time to get into all your past tours, but I know there have been plenty. Tell us what you've got coming up.
It seems like every winter, or at least every other winter, there's a big project. A couple of years ago, I was going around Lake Superior, which was great fun. I did all the mapping and planning for that. This year, the project, and I'm not the originator of it, is called the 9/11 Trail Tour. There is a 9/11 Trail Association. They've designated it's about 50% off-road trails to make a loop between the three 9/11 memorial sites, which are in Arlington at the Pentagon, in Pennsylvania at the Flight 93 Memorial, and in New York City, of course. This is their route. Bruce and I decided we do a circle of this with I think there are 18 riders by and large for most of our loop. We'll take 3 weeks in June. We'll start in Washington at the Pentagon. We go out to the Flight 93 Memorial. Then we go across to New York and then back down to D.C., visiting those memorials and paying due respect to the cycle. We are more minded to be touring riders than the Trail Association is. So we've used a fair amount of their route, but we've also taken into account that some of the rough trails they use are really rough. They're mountain bike trails. And so we've kind of made a touring riders version of the 9/11 circuit. We also don't go all the way over to Pittsburgh. We go straight up from the Gap Trail in a place called Garrett up to the Pennsylvania site, and then to Johnstown, and then we head east from there. That's great fun. We'll be doing it for 3 weeks in June.
And this will, all those, would you say 20 bikes, they're all recumbents, AD?
No, I'm the only recumbent in this group.
How appropriate. Leading the way, as always. Best of luck. That sounds like a great tour. It's good to see you back out there again. AD, let's finish up, if we could, with any final thoughts you might want to leave the Laid Back Bike Report audience with. What are you thinking about these days?
Well, I'm thinking about how much longer I'm going to build bikes. The demand is down, as we talked about somewhere when we talked about the industry, and I have several things here waiting to be built out when I have room in the garage for them. So I began to think, am I going to keep doing this forever? I don't feel like I'm really going to innovate at it, but it's a fine bike, both as a cheerleader for home builders and as a builder on my own. I intend to keep going with it as long as I'm able. I'm 70 now, and who knows what the future holds for any of us. So I enjoy that, and I'll do it as long as I enjoy it. The wife and I, we talk about relocating at some point, and if we do that, I'll no longer have that garage, maybe, and she'll no longer have a basement full of teacher supplies. So we're thinking 10 years hence, we're probably downsizing.
All right. Well, that will be a sad day for the recumbent community. AD, I remember very clearly the first time I saw you and met you at a Recumbent CycleCon. And I thought the concept of recycling old frames into new recumbents was just brilliant, and nobody else does that, and certainly no one else does what you do. So you are a tremendous asset and have been for a long time to the recumbent world. It's a pleasure to have worked with you in the past and to talk with you again today, and I hope we will see you again soon.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed this.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thanks, AD. And AD actually planned to be with us live today. He is currently on that tour, the 9/11 tour that he mentioned there. It is a rest day today. He'd hoped to be somewhere where he could join us, but he messaged me right before the show with regrets and saying he wouldn't be able to be with us today. But we really appreciate his contributions to the recumbent world and spending some time with us. So now, interestingly, talking about connections in the recumbent world and what a small world it is, AD talked about John Abbey's partially completed velomobile that you saw there, and that it had gone to someone in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, that he called the Velo Whisperer. Well, strangely enough, it turned out the Velo Whisperer is our next segment here guest. It is Larry Ploetz. And Larry, as I mentioned earlier in the show, was on last month talking about fixing or showing how to fix Nina's Mango. And there's much more to this Velo Whisperer than just that. And I was lucky enough to spend a little time with Larry recording an interview. Larry, let's have a look at it. Hey guys, we are here with Larry Ploetz. Larry was on recently with Nina Paley fixing her velomobile, and we wanted to explore a few more subjects that Larry is into, all revolving around velomobiles, of course. So, Larry, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
It is great to have you on the Laid Back Bike Report. Larry, if we can, let's start talking, first of all, about your touring on velomobiles. So if you could tell us what tours have you done and what velos did you use for those tours?
Okay. Actually, my first tours were motivated by the Rome group that went off in 2011. And my initial tour, just to test out to see if I would even want to go on that tour, was in a Glide velomobile, which wasn't actually the greatest velomobile to do a tour in. I then switched to a Quest velomobile, and that's the one that I eventually did my cross-country tour in 2013. I opted not to go into the Rome tour, although I might have been able to get in, mainly because I did not think I was up to their aggressive schedule, and I have to applaud them for doing that tour in August in the number of miles they did each day. That was very impressive. So I did the Quest in, like I said, in 2013. When I got back, I saw that Blue Velo had a Strada, a carbon Strada for sale, that the initial owner, the initial requester backed out of the sale. This became available, and I picked that up, and that's the one that I did the remaining tours in. The Strada actually is very similar in capacity to the Quest. I did North Lakes tour on that one.
Let's talk more generally about your touring on the Velos. How do you go about planning your routes, for instance?
I found that my go-to source is the Adventure Cycling Organization. So I've been a member for quite a number of years. Their maps, I think, are outstanding, and yes, they do have the maps that you can carry with you. They've got a lot of good information on the reverse side in terms of what to expect, where to stay, what to watch out for. They have progressed now so that you can download their routes into your bike computer. When I did my tours, they were still in the map mode, but the maps were so detailed, I then went with Ride GPS and transcribed my estimated distance for each day into the Ride with GPS into routes, which I downloaded into a bike computer and followed them.
Okay, well, that leads us to the next question, and that has to do with how you go about deciding how far to go each day. You've downloaded the maps into Ride with GPS, but if you're going across country or maybe you're going around the Great Lakes, sometimes you have distances you have to cover, I expect, to get certain places, and sometimes you're just taking your time. So how do you go about making those decisions?
I went to some sites like Crazy Guy on a Bike and looked at some of those tours and looked to see what their average touring was. And reflecting back on what the Rome group did, they were in the 100+ mile a day. I found that the 80 mile per day route seemed to be more in my realm of capabilities. So that's what I targeted. And I segmented each route into around 80 miles, depending upon where I thought a good destination city could be that would have camping or some place where I could stay.
Okay, one of the things that can complicate this decision, I guess, would be if you are riding alone versus if you're riding with some companions or on a group, right? So does that affect that decision? And which do you like to do best?
Yes, it does. Because if you're riding with a companion, and you can see how that works if you follow some of the blogs on Crazy Guy on a Bike or whatever your favorite site is, that when someone has a breakdown or someone has issues with their health, or if you're going with the group, like adventurecycling.org has groups, Bubba's Pampered Peddlers, which I think still exists, but probably not in the same format than it did when Bubba was leading it. They show that, if you're in a group and if you don't have a sag wagon, then you're at the mercy of the slowest member of the group. And if that's something you're good with, and if you're friends with the people that you're going, that's not a problem. My preference is somewhat independent, solo, so that if something comes up, I know I'm not impacting someone else's plans or capabilities. And I can also make decisions along the way saying, I'm going to stop here or I'm going to go further because the weather's great and I'm really enjoying myself.
I asked Larry to get into some of the nitty-gritty with what he takes with him on these tours. He plans these very carefully, folks, and Larry was kind enough to put together a short video showing his velomobiles and how he packs and what he packs. So, Larry, let's take a look at that right now.
Going on a self-supported extended velomobile trip and camping any different than regular backpacking or camping with a kayak? Well, let's look at the gear. I did a solo self-supported velomobile journey across the country in 2013, and I've done a trip around the Great Lake, Michigan in 2016. And this is what I packed. My goal is keep the gear to less than 20 pounds. So typical lightweight tent, a sleeping bag, a blow-up mattress, a pillow, something to cook your food on, a stove. I find that alcohol is good, and the solo stove allows you to burn wood and twigs if you choose to. A little footwear for around the camp, fireproof matches, food enough for a week. If we're in a questionable water source, a life straw, a little bit of a knife to get the sticks to the right size. Don't forget, when we take the tent down, we may need a nice lightweight mallet, a little solar charger for the equipment that we have in along with us, a towel, a first aid kit, hydration for the trip, and we have a spot tracker so that your wife or significant other knows where to find the body when the trail stops moving. Anything specific for the bike? This is the normal set of tools I bring along for a velomobile. Wrenches to take essentially everything apart, including the front steering mechanism in case shocks need to be examined, a bike pump, spare tubes, and that's about it. And the goal was actually achieved. This amount of gear is approximately 20 pounds. Okay, the bike tools add another 5 pounds, but I always carry 5 pounds with me anyway. And of course, I forgot to mention my clothes. It's in that dry sack on the top here. There is a week's worth of clothing in there. And when I say a week's work, I mean there's 3 days of fresh clothes, including the ones that I wear. And there is a rain jacket. No rain pants because you're in a velomobile. And the clothes fit just fine. So one of the helpful aids in packing is to use small containers. And as we can see, some of the longer ones for the tent fit on the side. The dry packs of food, since I've only have a week's worth in here, they can fit on either side of the chassis frame in this case. My tools, which I want to have somewhat easy access to, are close at hand. And my hydration bag, when it's filled up, will fit just fine there. And we had no problem with the wah fitting everything inside. In fact, what's interesting is there's actually a lot of room because behind the seat, it just goes up vertically. And in fact, if I were touring with the wah, I would put more of this loose stuff that had just been horizontal on the mango into a bag and stuff it all back in here. There's actually a lot of room. I thought that I might have some issue with the side stick steering, but I've sat in it and the loading on the floor at this level does not provide any issue with the side stick steering. And no surprise, everything fits nicely inside of a full-size Quest. A full-size Quest is what I went coast to coast in, so I knew it had plenty of room. This particular Quest is a works in progress. One nice thing about the Quest is in the turtle deck is where I carried the sleeping bag, and it fits quite nicely in there. This one, it will, as soon as I put the right covers in place, it will also fit nicely, but it has no single-sided swing arm.
Larry, so you're out touring, let's say around the country. You're kind of used to this now. With all the planning that you do things always pretty much go according to that plan?
Maybe about 80 to 90% of the time they do, but weather is going to be an unpredictable factor. Plus conditioning. One of the conditioning aspects of it, when you come from a relatively flat land like the southern part of Wisconsin is, you're really not used to a 4,000-foot climb or an 8,000-foot climb on your first day. And that was a rude awakening for me in California on my first day. I wanted to make 74 miles and I made 37. I spent some time really thinking about my planning and realizing that, my wife doesn't think I'm going to make it, so I'm going to prove her wrong. So I continued. The other thing is the weather. I remember in Texas, the morning was great. They said that the rain would be moving in. I looked at where the rain was and they said, nah, I've got plenty of time to do my route. Well, a matter of 2 hours into the route and the rain was coming sideways. And even in a velomobile, I don't have the hard race hood on. I just go with the Flevo roof, and you can get pretty wet. And one thing that I don't appreciate is riding on roads with cars when it's wet, because their ability to see me is decreased by a great deal. And so that was also another day that I just packed it in much shorter. I said, this is just not worth it at this point in time.
Okay, and how about the roads themselves? Do you occasionally run into issues with, I don't know, constructions or detours and that type of thing? How do you handle that?
Well, I know one reason thing that I found on my North Lakes tour is do not rely on Google Maps to show you a best bike route. That's why I said I really have gone to appreciate adventure cycling and the feedback and the corrections that they put into their map system. I wound up in Traverse City, Michigan around July 4th and decided to avoid some of the traffic and take a shortcut. Google sent me through roads that they thought were bike friendly that turned out to be single lane gravel roads that eventually turned into a trail through the woods in 6-inch loose sand. So you've
the road conditions you dream of for a velomobile, right?
No, not when you've got to go out and push for about half a mile. And then you surprise a mountain biker when you appear out of nowhere and they look at you and think, well, why are you out here? But usually the detours are just something that you've got to deal with on the fly. I really haven't had any issues where I've had to go to dangerous roads. So I guess that's a good thing. But if it happens, you've got to be flexible enough, change your plans, change perhaps where your final destination for the day is going to be.
We've seen your camping equipment in the video and your whole kit there, which is great. Typically, you are camping, is that correct? And do you have reservations for camping when you do the trips?
No, and that's part of the adventure. It's I only have a general idea of where I'm going to wind up. One of the surprises on my time through the Southwest was, even though the camping sites were supposed to be available, some of them just weren't that appealing in terms of isolation or facilities they offered. And at the time, which was 2013, there seemed to be a resurgence in the old 1950s style motels, and they generally seem to be operated by folks who came from India, and they were very friendly. They were only about $5 or $10 more a night than a campground, and they were really good at. We had great conversations in terms of biking. I think they had been familiar with bikes, kind of realized that people in the United States, by and large, do not travel by bike. So here I am traveling in this strange thing that I called a bicycle and going across country. So it's a great way to meet people, of course. The first part of my trip across the country was fairly desolate until I got past the middle of Texas. And I remember stopping at a gas station in Louisiana to fill up some Gatorade, which it was kind of my go-to routine. I would stop at a gas station, and they typically have some sort of energy drink so that I wouldn't have to carry several gallons all at once. And when I came out, there was a young lady and a whole bunch of her friends around the velomobile, and she said, "Can I take a picture?" And I said, "Of course, sure." And she said, "I want to get in." And then I told her that, "Okay, let me show you how to get in. And by the way, do you have a towel? Because you realize that a 60-year-old sweaty guy has been in here for the past 3 weeks. And, you know, I just don't want you to maybe sit on the seat and pick up something that you don't want to." And all of a sudden, she wasn't so enthusiastic about getting in the velomobile for a picture.
What are some of the dangers, as you perceive them anyways, that you face?
It has to do with the fact that I am in a velomobile, and people don't see them frequently. So I can be in a situation where traffic lanes are going from multiple lanes to 2 lanes or 1 lane, and there will be people who have to get the camera shot. So they will be more intent on getting that shot than they are in positioning themselves on the road or being aware of oncoming traffic, which puts me at risk. The other issue is when you're going through towns and people want to give you too much of the right of way, which, I mean, that should be a good thing, except if you've got the right of way and I'm expecting you to leave, but they want you to leave because they're still taking the picture, it starts to impact the flow of traffic. And that's a concern, again, because the cars are much bigger than me, and I know I'm going to lose if we try and occupy the same space.
How about aggressive drivers? Have you had much experience running into them? Not literally, of course.
Surprisingly, no. But what you do learn is that there's the happy beep, which says, "I accept you," and that's cool, which is usually a beep beep. And then there's the angry beep where they lay on the horn. The only time that I was really surprised was actually in the middle of a pretty much a desert, sand on all the sides, plenty of room. Semi-truck came up behind me pretty much out of nowhere, which you think maybe you're paying more attention, but I was not. And he passed by so close that his wind gust ripped off the Ploetz-Velo roof from the velomobile, which I was able to reattach. but it was probably my closest call of all in my touring.
What do you do for safety?
In the video, I mentioned the spot tracker for the video. One of the probably the only reason that my wife was okay with me going on a solo mission here is that I had used this device previously, and there's probably good alternatives now with a smartphone, providing that you have good cellular service. But there are some areas of this country where cellular service or your plan just isn't adequate. Now, this device, the spot tracking device, communicates directly with a satellite system. So it's a very small device, but every 10 minutes it charges itself up enough with the batteries and is able to send the GPS location to a satellite, which then updates a website. So my wife could see the tracks that I was making every 10 minutes of my ride. And then I would also make daily calls saying, yep, here I am. And she actually helped out once when I had crossed the Mississippi. I'd realized that the rear shock on the Quest had started to fail when it froze, I think, in Texas. And she was able to overnight the original Quest shock to me so that I could continue my trip.
So while your family is tracking you, I was wondering, we've talked to many velomobile tourers over the years, and one thing that keeps popping up seems to be stops by law enforcement. Did law enforcement have any trouble locating you at various times, Larry?
No, and usually it was because they were concerned about me. When I crossed from California to Arizona, there was a extended 7 or 8% grade on the freeway. And of course, I was in the that breakdown area of the freeway going slowly up the hill. And the Arizona State Patrol pulled me over and said, "Are you having engine problems?" And I said, "Well, I'm pedaling and it's a 6% grade, so I'm doing okay." And he said, "Okay, just checking on you." Second stop was in Texas when it was raining sideways. In that particular section of the road, there was road construction. So I had chosen to ride in the lanes that were blocked off because there were no cars. And an officer pulled me over. And again, he wasn't concerned that I was in the construction zone because no one was doing the construction during the rain. He thought that I had, again, engine trouble. And he didn't even want to talk to me much. As soon as he knew I was pedaling, he wanted to get out of the rain. My last stop was in Mississippi. I'm pretty sure it's Mississippi. There was a lot of logging in areas of the country where I didn't think that there was logging. So this particular road had a lot of debris on the side of the road, and I would ride in the lane seeing wasn't much traffic. If I would see a approaching car from behind and from the front that they would need both lanes, I would pull over into the wooden debris lane and let the cars pass safely. It turns out that one or perhaps two citizens decided that I was obstructing traffic when, there's really no traffic. And he stopped me, but he had been tailing me, and I told him my story, and he said, "Yes, I've observed you riding, and that is a story. So, and I know that there's a lot of debris on the side of our road, so just be careful."
All right, Larry, so that should finish up the touring part of our conversation. Let's finish up this with talking about maintenance and care of velomobiles, which is how I first was introduced to you. How and why did you start working on velomobiles?
I think it relates to my first velomobile that I purchased, which was someone had put together a kit. There was an outfit in Texas called pedalyourselfhealthy.org, and they sold FAW kits, and a gentleman in Florida built it, and he then went on to get a WA, and he sold this aluminum velomobile to me. And he had added an electric assist to it. And this is not something that any local bike shops, would handle. So I used what skills I had to start to learn how to get everything maintained properly on that velomobile. And considering, I've only bought 2 brand new velomobiles out of the 10 that I've owned. So they've all need repair once in a while.
And apparently you really like doing the work.
Yes, I do. Even though my background has been in software and computers, I think genetically my brother and dad were both mechanical engineers. So I inherited some of that ability somehow.
Some of the hardware abilities. That's right. So, all right. So let's talk about that. Just as highlights, I guess, what would you consider the most challenging repair that you've encountered?
I think it has to do with a mango, and I do have a visual aid here. If you can see, there's the mango is unique in that it has a left-hand freewheel on it, because the chain system is split into 2 chain drives. One drives a derailleur system, which then drives a secondary chain. And this was actually on a friend's velomobile, which I now own, which I really like, which happened to be Doug Davis's Red Edition Mango. And what happened is there is a small aluminum retaining ring that keeps the freewheel when it spins forward, your wheel forward, from spinning itself off the threads into the wheel. Now, my friend called me in February or March saying his bike was all locked up, it wouldn't work, and it turned out that the freewheel had broken through the retaining ring in here. So it's somewhat cold. He had a heater in the garage, and it was difficult to actually remove the wheel because the freewheel prevented this from dropping down and getting allowing a removal. And one of the hardest parts, I think, about working on a velomobile is they've got these nice fiberglass, Kevlar, carbon fiber bodies. And the only way to remove this was actually to bite the bullet and to trim more of the carbon, in this case, Kevlar carbon fiber body away to allow the wheel to drop. Then the challenge was, well, how do you keep this freewheel from not spinning back into the wheel under pressure? My first solution, which worked for quite a while, was actually to 3D print an ABS piece of plastic that would fit where this aluminum spacer is right now. It turns out that ABS is still fairly compressible. And when I took ownership of this Mango in a trade, I decided, well, I've got something from the days when I used to weld recumbents, which I had built long wheelbase and recumbent trikes out of aluminum. And I had a bottom bracket. And the bottom bracket shell holder was very similar to the diameter that I needed. So now there's a nice aluminum bottom bracket holder here, all ready and fixed to go on the bike. And this freewheel is able to freewheel, and this will be good to go. And you may wonder, well, why did that break in the first place? Part of it, I think, was just a design optimization that they didn't put in until later when they got that little aluminum stop a little thicker. And the other was probably due to the fact that at some point in time, this velomobile had a cadence sensing power assist system. And the cadence sensing systems seem to be very abrupt when they decide to give you power. And that kind of system can be a little bit rough on the driveline. And I'm not saying that's what happened in this case, but it is a possibility.
Are you happy to work on other people's velomobiles at this point? Should they contact you, and how should they do so if they have a problem in your area, for instance?
Well, I'm in the southeast Wisconsin area, and my friend Nick and I have worked on Nina Paley's Mango, and I'd be happy to work with anyone in the area. You bring the velomobile and the parts, and we can talk about what we can do. So, yeah, if you're in the area, it'd be great.
Okay, and we will have Larry's email address for those of you who want to contact him and pursue this a little further on. So I think we're going to leave it there then, Larry. Thank you so much for joining us on the Laid Back Bike Report today.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Great. There's Larry Ploetz. So, I don't know about you, but I just can't seem to get enough of wheel maintenance. And so let's head to Trey's workshop and see if we can get a little bit more.
What I did was I took the attachment parts, the metal skewer and all the good parts that go together to hold the wheel onto the trike. And I just put them through the ultrasonic cleaning to get everything cleaned up. Once it's out, I wiped everything down, hit it with a little silicone, and then I took this axle shaft, or actually it's a hollow shaft that goes through the acts as the axle, put a little bit of grease on there, so we're good to go on that. So the way this works, this skewer actually goes to the inside of the wheel, not to the outside. So the way you assemble this, you have a little plastic piece here. It's hard to see, but it's got an indentation on it, and that indentation fits against here. So if you can see that there you go. So it helps when you flip this down, once you've tightened it, it helps it nestle together and stay shut, hold shut, so to speak. So plastic piece. Let's see. Then you have, actually I didn't show it there, but you've got a little washer, an end cap, spring, axle tube, nestles together like that, spring. That's easier to do it this way. Put these two together, and then this is like this, and you tighten it together like this, and that pulls the wheel together, and then you lock it closed just like that. So let's go to the bike and I'll show you how this all fits together. Alright, we're at the trike here. I think you can see it here. Let me turn it to the side. Here is where this black piece goes through. So let's go ahead and take this apart and get this started again. I've got the wheel sitting on the seat. You can see it there to the left. We're going to take all these pieces apart, set them on the seat. I'm going to show you how it goes together. First thing I'm going to do is take this axle and put it through the wheel. And then when you mount this, you have to take the disc brake and slide it into a mint. You have to take your disc and slide it inside the disc brake and then push this axle. See this axle right here? Push that inside. Once you get everything lined up, there you go. See, it slides right in. Now, we take all our bits and pieces. Remember I told you that this part, the actual handle, goes to the inside. So you have your plastic piece, washer, end cap, put your spring on. It slides in through this piece right here. There you go. Then take your spring, your large retaining washer, and then your other end cap. And it's going to go, move this around a little bit so you can see. Put your spring inside, your large washer, there we go, and then your end cap. Hold the inside like so, and then just start turning. And tighten, tighten, tighten. And I do it until I get enough tension so that I can close the lever down and it be tight. My trike rack's a little bit in the way there, but anyway, you get the idea. So when you get it tight, you push this lever down and that locks it in. You just want it tight enough to hold the wheel nice and snug, and so there's no play in it. There you go. Nothing to it.
All right, Trey. I think the ultimate goal of Trey's workshop videos is really to get us all to the point where we learn enough from your video so that we finish up saying nothing to it. So I think that's where we need to be. Trey, that was great. Can you give the folks an idea of what else you're working on at this point? Well, we're going to try to do these pretty close to every month if we can. What you working on right now?
Well, I've got parts on order to rebuild the front suspension on our HP Velotechnic FS26s. Over time, they just degrade. They have some elastomer parts in there, and it just needs replacing every now and then. And we bought these in 2012, and they have tens of thousands of miles on them, so it's time for a replacement. And folks at HP are getting me some parts, and I'll have that. And then I've also ordered a tool. I've ordered Catrikes. I think they call it their Colibri. It's a way to set toe in. It's just a fixed rod that slides back and forth so you can set your toe in. That's what I was talking to you about earlier. I made something out of a couple of fiberglass poles last night with some zip ties to serve its purpose. And actually, I think it does the same thing as a tool, but the tool sure does look neat. And if I get new tools, I'm happy.
And you're going to show them to us too. It's always important for us to see what it is you're using. So, and yeah, we want to thank Heiko and HP Velotechnic for working with us on this HP Scorpion project of yours. They've been very helpful to us. So shout out to them.
For sure. And they have fantastic manuals. I'm really impressed.
Very good. All right, Trey. Thanks, pal. We're going to move on now to our last segment here with Larry Seidman, who is going to do a quick report on those National Senior Games that recently happened. Larry, let's have a look.
The National Senior Games were recently held in and around Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They were originally scheduled for 2021, but were postponed until May of 2022. Recumbent riders were welcome to ride in the 5K and 10K time trials. Both time trials were at the parking lots of the FLA Live Arena in Sunrise, Florida. Here's a map showing the 10K course. The courses were flat and the conditions were hot with temperatures in the 80s and high humidity to match. Here's a picture prior to the racers lining up for one of the races, showing how wide a variety we had of the recumbent riders at the 10K race. Here are the 5K results from the May 18th race, broken out by gender and 5-year age groups within the 2 or 3 wheels. So just about everybody who finished got a first place gold. Steve Olson came in first in his category and was the fastest recumbent with an average of 27.5 miles per hour. The following day, on May 19th, was the 10K time trial, and here are the results. The leading recumbent in the 10K was Rob Lloyd, averaging 24 miles per hour. Let's have a look at a few of the racers in no particular order. Darrell Forrest, Gary Smith, Mike Turner, Barbara Gaylord, Jay Knight, and Marjorie Karwalski. A few days prior to the cycling time trials was the triathlon, and one recumbent rider participated as a cyclist in the triathlon relay. Roger Reddish did the 12.4 miles or 20K cycling along the Rickenbacker Causeway. It was mostly flat, but had a little bit of climbing on the bridges to get over the water. The team finished second in the co-ed relay category, and Roger's official split time was 1 hour, 1 minute. The next National Senior Games will be in Pittsburgh, PA, July of 2023. If this is something you might be interested in, check out www.nsga.com for details on how to qualify. That's it for this month's report. Back to you, Gary.
Hey, Larry, great job. I know you wanted to mention how much we want to support folks in the senior games, both locally and national next year. What do you have to do to get involved?
Just got to look up, register, both states have to be over 50, and check. Different states have different requirements. Most you can do the time trials. Some you can do the road races, which are a little longer, but some states recumbents still aren't allowed in the road races.
Right, something we're working on, I know, and so we'll keep our eyes on that and keep supporting it. Thank you, sir. And the other member of my illustrious sports team here, Denny, you had been following this gentleman who is riding on the Race Across America, the Race Across America.
No, on the Trans Am.
The Trans Am, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Race Across America is coming up this week, but no recumbent content that I know of. Really.
Trans American Bike Ride. That's the actual name, right?
Okay, yeah. Actually, it is a race. It's a self-supported race. It's 4,000 miles. Goes from Astoria, Oregon to York, Virginia.
Okay, is it Yorktown?
Yorktown, thank you.
Yorktown,
Virginia. And this year...
What's interesting about it for us, though? Tell us what you got.
There is a recumbent in it this year. It kind of snuck in, didn't see it until somebody called my attention to it. And it's a Frenchman, Laurent Bouchard, who actually shares the name of a professional bike racer, and around the same age, but I don't think they're the same person. But he's riding in an action-bent a performer. He's riding a performer bike, and he's doing quite well. He's in 13th position, which is not bad. There's 46 still in the race. There are 44 still in the race. And they started out with over 50, and he's covered 1,200 miles. Right now he's in Ennis, Montana, still in the Rockies. Weather has not been very good. It's been pretty snotty, kind of rainy, coolish, not any hot days, and but he's right in there with a lot of other racers and doing very well for himself.
All right, well, so we'll keep an eye on him, and hopefully maybe next month we'll have a little something to report.
I hope so. I've reached out to him. I haven't had any response. Of course, he's kind of busy with riding 16 hours a day and riding a very sensible race as far as I could see. And like I say, doing quite well, covering about 170 miles a day.
Very good.
And one other thing I was going to mention, you can follow this on trackleaders.com. That's trackleaders.com. And click on his name and you can see where he is. Look at the overall position in the race. The race leaders are out close to 2,000 miles now. They're not real people, honestly.
Considering what they're doing, they're putting up some crazy numbers in terms of mileage.
Numbers.
So,
they really
all
are.
right, Denny, thank you. And so we wish Monsieur Bouchard bon chance. How does that sound? Is that going to? Will he understand that? I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you both so much, and we're going to finish up the show here now by thanking our amazing sponsors, starting with TerraCycle. From fairings to headrests, whatever accessory you need, Pat and crew have you covered. And Trailside Trikes. If you find yourself in Florida, near the Withlacoochee Trail, or in Knoxville, Tennessee, check out Andrew's shop and amazing crew. And TerraTrike and Greenspeed Trikes. Your vision, whatever it is, TerraTrike has a trike to take you there. And Greenspeed cutting-edge designs create performance through Aussie ingenuity. And Laid Back Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike Ice and Greenspeed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our megastore in Cheriton. And Avenue Trikes. With the gearing you need and the comfort you want, it's time to enjoy riding again. They're in stock, ready to ship, and only $19.95. Dealer inquiries are welcome. And AZUB. In addition to the titanium suspension, another technological gem brought to you by AZUB is an optional folding mechanism. It is not only easy to operate, but works great and looks fantastic. And Recumbent PDX, Catrike's West Coast Megastore. Schedule your test ride on trikes with pedal assist electric from both Bosch and Bafang, roll-off and slump component groups, and adaptive builds. Experience the joy of Catrike. And our latest sponsor is EcoCycles. Adding e-assist to your bent can be a daunting task. With total focus on customer service, the experts at EcoCycles make this upgrade simple and worry-free. Check out EcoCycles today. All right, guys, we're going to be back with you next month, July 10th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll have a great show for you then. We'll announce what's coming up as we get a little bit closer to that date. Now, if you'd like to support what we do here on the Laid Back Bike Report, please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and don't forget to click that little white eye up there. That'll take you to the Laid Back Bike Report website. See our past shows, what's coming up, buy a hat, and perhaps you'd like to become a Patreon supporter like all these fine folks here. I want to really thank our latest Patreon supporter. It's John Supin from Covington, Louisiana. John, thank you so much for joining our Patreon supporters. All right, folks, let me get our wonderful crew back up here and thank them for helping me out on this show. Guys, great job. We really learned a lot today from a lot of different people, so we appreciate you all being with us as always. So thanks, crew. And I want to thank all of my amazing viewers out there. You guys make this show wonderful by joining the live chat and watching us every month. We really appreciate that. So, until our next webcast, from all of us here at the Laid Back Bike Report, so long, bent riders.